The level 9 simulator kills champions in under a minute. A human beat it in 12 seconds and we still don't understand how. Look, I have been teaching combat tactics at the Intergalactic Combat Academy for 73 cycles. 73. In that time I have seen warriors from every corner of the galaxy walk through those doors. Krellian berserkers with exoskeletons that could punch through starship hulls. Vorlax assassins who could bend light around their bodies. Dendorian shock troopers bred specifically for war across 12 generations. And you know what? The level 9 simulator broke every single one of them. Every single one. So when Administrator Kilvos told me we had a human signing up for entrance exams, I laughed. Actually laughed. Right in his face. The sound echoed through the observation deck like someone had told the galaxy's funniest joke, because, well, someone had. Humans. Fragile little mammals from a backwater planet that only joined the Galactic Council 15 cycles ago. Their bones break if you look at them wrong. Their skin tears like wet paper. They need to breathe oxygen of all things, one of the most reactive and dangerous gases in the periodic table, and they need it constantly. They are held together by hope, optimism, and what I can only describe as weaponized stupidity. And one of them wanted to take the level 9 exam. Her name is Kira Torres, Kilvos said, sliding the datapad across my desk. His triple-jointed fingers clicked against the metal surface, making that annoying sound he knows I hate. She has completed the preliminary physical assessments. She passed the preliminaries, I asked, picking up the datapad with my lower manipulator arms, while my upper ones crossed skeptically. Who was supervising? Did they fall asleep? Did someone bribe them? Riktal, Kilvos said in that warning tone he uses when he thinks I am being unreasonable, which for the record I was not. The results are legitimate. She scored in the 78th percentile. I scrolled through her stats. Height, 1.7 meters. Mass, 63 kilograms. That is barely enough to register on our equipment. I have seen cargo drones with more impressive specifications. Her planet's gravity was only 1 standard G, which explained why she probably felt like she was drowning in our 1.4 G training environment. This is a joke, right? I looked up at Kilvos, searching his face for any sign of humor. His sensory stalks remained perfectly still, which meant he was serious. You are actually going to let this creature into the level 9 simulator. The same simulator that hospitalized Krex the Undying. The same one that made Champion Thoraxis quit the academy and become a moisture farmer. Council regulations are clear, Kilvos replied, which is administrator speak for, I do not like this either, but my hands are tied. All council species have equal access to military training programs. We cannot discriminate based on physiological limitations. Physiological limitations, I repeated, setting the datapad down harder than necessary. She has an internal skeleton, Kilvos. Internal. Do you know how insane that is? One good hit, and all those bones just snap, snap, snap like dried twigs. That is when Jorovsvik walked into my office. He is another combat instructor, specializes in zero-gravity assault tactics, and has even less patience for bureaucratic nonsense than I do. He took one look at the datapad, then at Kilvos, then at me, and his face split into what his species considers a grin. It looked like someone had cut a hole in leather. Oh, this is beautiful, Jorovsvik said, his voice a deep rumble that vibrated the floor panels. Please tell me this is happening. Please tell me we are actually going to watch a human attempt, level 9. She will not last 60 seconds, I said flatly. It was not arrogance. It was mathematics, basic biology, simple physics. I have seen the statistics on human durability. 60 seconds is generous. I am being kind. Jorovic's grin widened. Want to make that interesting? And that, my friends, is how the betting pool started. Within an hour, every instructor in the combat wing had thrown credits into the pot. The over-under was set at 60 seconds. Most bets clustered around the 30 to 45 second range. A few optimists, probably drunk on fermented algae, went as high as 90 seconds. Instructor Thonara, who teaches survival tactics and has always been soft on the weaker species, bet 200 credits that Kira would make it to 2 minutes. 2 minutes, in level 9. The simulator that generates combat scenarios considered mathematically impossible to survive. I bet 500 credits on under 60 seconds. It felt like stealing, honestly, but I have never been one to refuse free money. The day of the exam arrived faster than I expected. I stood in the observation deck with 15 other instructors, all of us pressed against the reinforced glass that separated us from the simulator chamber. The room beyond was massive, 50 meters in every direction, filled with hard light projectors, gravity manipulators, atmospheric processors, and enough weaponized technology to level a small city. The door hissed open, and Kira Torres walked in. She was tiny. I mean truly, genuinely, almost comically small. Her academy-issued combat suit looked like it had been designed for someone 3 times her size, and it probably had been. Humans were so new to the council that our quartermaster probably had to special order equipment in her dimensions. Her dark hair was pulled back in what humans call a ponytail, which seemed like a terrible tactical decision since it gave opponents something to grab, but what did I know? I was just a 73-cycle combat veteran. She looked up at the observation deck, and I swear on the eternal void she smiled. Not a nervous smile, not an uncertain smile. A smile that said, "This is going to be fun." "Oh, she is going to die," Jorvik whispered beside me, and for once, I agreed with him completely. Kilvos cleared his throat and activated the intercom. "Candidate Torres, you are about to begin the Level 9 combat assessment. You may forfeit at any time by stating your withdrawal clearly. Do you understand the terms?" "Understood," Kira said. Her voice came through the speakers crisp and clear, with an accent I could not quite place. Earth had so many languages, so many regional variations, that trying to keep track of them all gave me a headache. "Ready when you are." The timer appeared on the main display. 0 seconds. Waiting. I leaned forward, my primary eyes focused on Kira, my secondary eyes watching the simulator's startup sequence. All around me, instructors did the same. The room fell silent except for the hum of charging systems and the quiet whisper of recycled air. "Begin simulation," Kilvos said. The timer started counting, and Kira Torres proceeded to destroy everything we thought we knew about human limitations. The simulator did not ease into the scenario. That is not how Level 9 works. The moment the timer started, the entire chamber transformed into what I can only describe as a weaponized nightmare. Gravity fluctuated wildly, cycling between 0.8 g and 3.2 g in randomized intervals. The atmospheric processors kicked in, flooding the chamber with a caustic fog that would burn exposed skin on most species. Temperature spiked to 47 degrees Celsius, then plummeted to -15 within seconds. Hard light projectors materialized obstacles, barriers, and cover points that shifted positions every 12 seconds. And then came the Predator drones. 6 of them, each the size of a small transport vehicle, equipped with plasma cannons, razor nets, and enough artificial intelligence to coordinate pack-hunting tactics. They materialized at strategic points around the chamber, their targeting systems already locking onto the tiny human standing in the center of chaos. "She is already dead," Instructor Krevnar muttered from somewhere behind me. "Look at her. She has not even moved." He was right. Kira stood completely still, her head tilted slightly to one side, as if she was listening to something we could not hear. The gravity shifted to 2.6 g, and I watched her knees buckle slightly under the increased weight. "See?" I thought. "Basic physics. Her fragile little body cannot handle this." The first drone fired. A plasma bolt screamed through the air, ionizing the atmosphere as it traveled, aimed directly at Kira's center mass. At that range, with that accuracy, there was no possible way to avoid it. I actually started to close my eyes, not wanting to watch the inevitable carnage. Kira moved. I do not mean she dodged. I mean she moved in a way that made my brain hurt trying to process it. Her body dropped and rotated simultaneously, her legs sweeping out as gravity shifted to 0.9 g, using the change in weight to accelerate her movement. The plasma bolt passed through the space where her torso had been a fraction of a second earlier, and she was already rolling, coming up behind a hard light barrier that had materialized exactly where she needed it. "Lucky," Jorvik said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. "Pure luck." The second drone fired from her left flank, the third from her right, coordinated attack pattern, designed to eliminate cover options. Standard Predator drone tactics. Kira should have been trapped. Instead, she jumped. Now, I know what you are thinking. Jumping does not sound impressive, but you have to understand the context. The gravity was currently at 2.1 g. The floor was slick with condensation from the temperature fluctuations, and she was wearing a combat suit that weighed at least 15 kilograms. Jumping in those conditions should have been impossible. Kira Torres did not care about should. She launched herself upward with enough force that I heard the floor panel crack under her feet. The plasma bolts converged on her previous position, creating a small explosion of superheated air. She twisted mid-flight, her body rotating in 3 dimensions at once, and grabbed onto a hard light platform that was shifting positions. The platform moved, carrying her 12 meters across the chamber in 2 seconds. She let go at the apex of the platform's movement, and I swear by the void she was smiling. "What is she doing?" Instructor Thanara whispered, her sensory tendrils quivering with confusion. "That is not standard evasion protocol. That is not any protocol." Kira hit the ground rolling, came up running, and the gravity shifted to 3.2 g. I waited for her to collapse. That is what should have happened. 3.2 g is crushing weight for a human. Their cardiovascular systems are not designed for that kind of pressure. Blood pools in their extremities. Their hearts struggle to pump against the increased resistance. They black out. Kira did not black out. She slowed down. Yes, her movements became more deliberate, more calculated, but she kept moving, kept adapting, as if her body was somehow compensating in real time for physics that should have been killing her. She dove behind a barrier just as a drone's razor net deployed where she had been standing. The net, designed to entangle and immobilize targets, caught nothing but air. "Check the simulator settings," I said to Kelevos, not taking my eyes off Kira. "Something is wrong. The difficulty must be miscalibrated." Kelevos manipulated the control interface, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Settings are correct. Level 9 standard parameters. All systems functioning normally." "Then explain that," Jorelvik said, pointing at the main display. Kira had somehow maneuvered herself into a position where all 6 Predator drones were on one side of her, clustered together as they adjusted their attack formation. She stood behind a hard light barrier that was about to shift positions, the caustic fog swirling around her like a living thing, temperature readings fluctuating wildly, gravity currently sitting at 1.7 g. She looked up at the nearest drone, and even through the chaos, even through the atmospheric distortion, I could see her expression clearly. She was analyzing, calculating, planning. In the span of maybe 4 seconds, this tiny human had assessed an environment that took most warriors hours to understand. She had identified the drone's coordination patterns, mapped the gravity fluctuation cycles, and predicted the hard light platform movements. "Impossible," I whispered. "That level of spatial awareness is impossible. Our best students take weeks to develop that kind of environmental reading." "How long has it been?" someone asked. I glanced at the timer. 8 seconds. 8 seconds of pure survival against odds that should have killed her in 2. The drones fired simultaneously, a coordinated barrage designed to saturate the target area with enough plasma to vaporize a Krillian berserker. Kira waited until the last possible microsecond, then sprinted directly toward them. Toward them. "She has lost her mind," Krevner said. The stress broke her. "She is running to her death." But I was starting to suspect something else entirely. Something that made my spinal ridge shiver with a sensation I had not felt in decades. Fear. Because Kira Torres was not running to her death. As she charged forward, gravity shifted to 0.8 g. The hard light barriers rearranged themselves into a new configuration, and a plasma storm generator activated in the chamber's upper atmosphere, creating an electromagnetic interference field that would disrupt the drone's targeting systems for approximately 2.3 seconds. All of these elements, randomized and chaotic, had aligned in a specific pattern, a pattern that created a window of opportunity so narrow, so precise, that exploiting it would require the kind of tactical genius we only read about in ancient military texts. Kira exploited it. She used the reduced gravity to leap over a barrier, pass through the plasma storm's electromagnetic shadow to break the drone's target lock, hit the ground in a slide that carried her between 2 drones that were too close together to fire without hitting each other, and grab something from the floor. A piece of debris, shrapnel from a hard light projection that had destabilized, completely useless in combat. Or so I thought. The timer read 11 seconds. And I realized, with horrible dawning certainty, that we had made a terrible mistake. We had not put a human in the Level 9 simulator. We had put the Level 9 simulator in a cage with a human. What happened next defied 73 cycles of combat experience and every military doctrine I had ever studied. Kira took that piece of debris, that useless scrap of destabilized hard light projection, and threw it directly into the plasma storm above her head. Now, understand something. Plasma storms in the simulator are designed to be environmental hazards, obstacles to avoid, not tactical assets to exploit. The electromagnetic interference they generate disrupts all electronic systems within range. Weapons malfunction. Targeting computers fail. Communication systems go dark. The debris hit the plasma storm and something beautiful and terrible happened. The destabilized hard light matrix interacted with the charged plasma particles, creating a cascading feedback loop that amplified the electromagnetic pulse by a factor of 12. The pulse radiated outward in a perfect sphere, and all 6 Predator drones dropped out of the air simultaneously, their systems completely fried. 6 drones. Eliminated. With a piece of garbage and an understanding of energy physics that should not exist in a ground-level combatant. Did she just? Instructor Thilnara began, her voice trailing off into stunned silence. She weaponized the environmental hazard, I finished, my own voice hollow with disbelief. She turned the simulator against itself. The timer read 11.4 seconds. But Kira was not finished. Oh no, not even close. The drones crashed to the ground in various states of electrical failure, sparking and smoking. Standard protocol would be to establish a defensive position, wait for secondary threats, assess the new tactical situation. Sensible things that keep you alive. Kira ran toward the nearest fallen drone and kicked it. Not a gentle kick. Not an exploratory tap. A full-force, gravity-assisted biomechanically optimized strike that sent the drone, which weighed approximately 200 kilograms, sliding across the slick floor directly into a hard light barrier that was in the process of shifting position. The drone hit the barrier at the exact microsecond when the hard light projection was destabilizing to reform in a new location. The collision caused a catastrophic matrix failure. The barrier exploded in a shower of photonic fragments that scattered across the chamber like shrapnel. One of those fragments, traveling at high velocity, struck the plasma storm generator's external housing. The generator, already stressed from the electromagnetic feedback loop Kira had created, immediately went into emergency shutdown. But here is the thing about plasma storm generators, they do not shut down cleanly. The magnetic containment fields collapse in a specific sequence, and if you know that sequence, if you understand the timing, you can predict exactly where the residual plasma will vent. Kira knew the sequence. She was already moving, positioning herself so that when the plasma vented, it would vent away from her and directly onto the secondary threat spawners that were about to activate in the chamber's northwest quadrant. The plasma hit the spawners with enough thermal energy to melt their projection matrices into slag. The secondary threats never materialized. She just prevented the second wave. Jorvik said, his voice barely above a whisper. The second wave that was not supposed to activate for another 45 seconds. She knew it was coming. How did she know it was coming? I could not answer, because my brain was still trying to process what my eyes were showing me. The timer read 11.7 seconds, and Kira Torres had effectively neutralized the primary threats, eliminated the secondary threats before they spawned, and weaponized 3 separate environmental systems in a combination that our own designers had never considered possible. And she still was not finished. The Level 9 simulator has primary objectives, the things you are supposed to accomplish to pass the exam. Reach the extraction point, retrieve the tactical data core, survive for a minimum of 10 minutes under sustained assault. These objectives are designed to be completed over the course of hours, with most candidates failing before even reaching the halfway point. Kira looked up at the observation deck, made direct eye contact with me, and I swear on everything I hold sacred, she winked. Then she sprinted toward the extraction point at a dead run. Gravity shifted to 2.8 g. She adjusted her stride length and foot placement without breaking rhythm. Temperature spiked to 53 degrees Celsius. She did not slow down. The caustic fog thickened to the point where visibility dropped to less than 3 meters. She navigated through it like she had a map burned into her brain. She memorized the chamber layout, Krevnor said, his translator struggling to convey the shock in his voice. In 8 seconds of chaos, she memorized the entire 50-meter chamber layout. The extraction point materialized, a glowing platform surrounded by hard light barriers that required specific deactivation sequences. Sequences that candidates were supposed to figure out through trial and error over the course of multiple attempts. The barriers were keyed to respond to specific frequencies of kinetic impact, a puzzle designed to take at least 20 minutes to solve. Kira did not try to solve the puzzle. She grabbed another piece of debris, this one a chunk of melted spawner matrix that was still radiating thermal energy, and threw it at the barrier with precise angular momentum. The superheated metal hit the hard light projection at an angle that caused it to refract through the barrier's frequency matrix, creating a harmonic resonance that propagated through the entire network. All the barriers deactivated simultaneously. Every single one. That is not possible, I heard myself say. The probability of calculating that trajectory, that angle, that thermal coefficient, all while running at full speed in variable gravity, that is not possible. Kira stepped onto the extraction platform. One objective complete. She turned, ran to the northwest quadrant, where the tactical data core was housed in a reinforced containment field. The containment field was designed to require specialized tools to breach, tools that candidates were supposed to request from equipment caches hidden throughout the chamber. Kira looked at the containment field for exactly 0.7 seconds, then punched it. I am not exaggerating. She made a fist with her tiny, fragile, supposedly weak human hand, and struck the containment field with enough focused kinetic energy that the field matrix shattered like crystalline glass. Her bones, Lunara gasped. Her hand bones should be powder. That impact force should have destroyed her entire skeletal structure. Kira flexed her fingers, apparently checking for damage, found none, and retrieved the tactical data core. 2 objectives complete. The timer read 11.9 seconds. She had one objective remaining. Survive for 10 minutes, except, well, there was nothing left to survive against. The drones were dead. The secondary threats had been prevented from spawning. The environmental hazards were either neutralized or weaponized into submission. Kira Torres had accidentally completed a survival objective by eliminating everything that was supposed to threaten her survival. She walked, not ran, walked casually back to the extraction platform, placed the tactical data core in its designated receptacle and stood at attention facing the observation deck. The simulation recognized all objectives as complete. The chamber powered down, environmental systems returning to normal parameters, the chaos dissolving into calm. The timer stopped at 12.03 seconds. 12 seconds. The observation deck was completely silent. 15 instructors, representing 9 different species, with a combined 422 cycles of military experience, stood frozen in collective shock. Somewhere behind me, I heard the sound of credits being transferred. The betting pool automatically paying out to, I checked the records later, exactly 0 winners. Nobody had bet on under 15 seconds because nobody thought it was possible. Kira looked up at us, raised one hand in what I later learned was a human gesture called a wave, and smiled that same smile from before. The smile that said, "This was fun." Calvos cleared his throat, trying to find words and failing spectacularly. His sensory stalks twisted into configurations I had never seen before, which in his species indicates complete cognitive overload. "Candidate Torres," he finally managed, his voice cracking in 3 places. "Please exit the simulator chamber and report to the briefing room for assessment." "Sure thing," Kira said cheerfully, like she had not just destroyed the entire foundation of combat theory we had built our careers on. "Do I need to fill out any paperwork, or?" She walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the silent chamber, leaving behind 6 dead drones, multiple destroyed environmental systems, and 15 instructors who were seriously reconsidering their life choices. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. We just stared at the frozen timer display. 12.03 seconds. "I need a drink," Jorlvik said finally. "I need several drinks. I need to drink until this makes sense or until I forget it entirely." I could not argue with that logic. I spent the next hour trying to convince myself that what I witnessed was a malfunction. The simulator had glitched. The difficulty settings had somehow been reduced. The environmental processors had miscalibrated. There had to be a rational explanation that did not involve a human, a fragile, soft-bodied, recently spacefaring human, completely dismantling our most advanced combat assessment in less time than it takes to brew a cup of stem root tea. Run full diagnostics on every system, I told the technician team, my voice probably harsher than necessary. Every sensor, every projector, every gravitational field generator. I want to know if a single component was operating outside normal parameters. Chief Technician Morvax, a methodical Bendare with 12 specialized manipulator limbs, worked through the analysis with painful thoroughness. His eye clusters flickered in concentration as data streams flowed across multiple displays. After 37 minutes of silence broken only by the clicking of his mandibles, he turned to me. All systems functioned perfectly, Morvax said, his translator rendering his clicks into flat, emotionless words. 0 anomalies detected. 0 deviations from standard operational baselines. The Level 9 simulator performed exactly as designed. Run the diagnostics again, I said. Instructor Vrektal, Morvax replied patiently. I have run them 3 times already. The results are identical. The simulator was operating at full Level 9 parameters. Gravity fluctuations registered correctly. Plasma storm intensity was within expected ranges. Predator drone response times were nominal. Everything worked perfectly. Which meant the problem was not the simulator. The problem was that a human had beaten it in 12 seconds. Show me the footage, I said, settling into the analysis chamber's primary seat. Around me, other instructors filed in, all wearing expressions that ranged from confusion to existential crisis. Joralvik looked like he had already started on those drinks he mentioned. Lunara's sensory tendrils were tied in knots, a stress response her species displays when confronting information that contradicts fundamental beliefs. The holographic display activated, showing the simulation from multiple angles simultaneously. We watched in silence as Kira entered the chamber, as the chaos began, as she did that impossible first dodge. Pause there, Instructor Krevnor said, pointing at the frozen image. Replay her movement at quarter speed. We watched again. Kira's body dropped, rotated, and repositioned in a fluid motion that seemed to violate basic biomechanics. Her joints moved in ways that should not be possible, bending at angles that would snap ligaments in most species. Human skeletal flexibility is documented as being moderate to low, Krevnor said, consulting his datapad. Limited range of motion compared to most council species. So how is she doing that? Athletic training, Delara suggested weakly. Perhaps she is an exceptional specimen of her species. Then explain this, I said, jumping forward to the moment where Kira threw the debris into the plasma storm. She calculated trajectory, energy dispersion, electromagnetic feedback amplification, and cascade timing in, 0.3 seconds. That is faster than our tactical computers can run those simulations. We watched her weaponize the plasma storm. We watched her eliminate 6 drones without firing a single shot. We watched her prevent the secondary wave by predicting systems that had not even activated yet. She read the chamber's power distribution patterns, Morvax said suddenly, his mandibles clicking rapidly in what I recognized as shock. Look at her eye movements in the first 3 seconds. She is not looking at the drones or the environmental hazards. She is looking at the floor panels, the wall emitters, the ceiling projectors. She is reading the infrastructure. He was right. In those initial moments when we thought Kira was frozen in panic, she had actually been conducting a complete structural analysis of the entire simulator chamber. She had identified every system, mapped every energy flow, and predicted every possible configuration in 3 seconds. Humans have pattern recognition capabilities, I said, grasping for any explanation. Their brains are wired for it. Evolutionary adaptation from being persistence hunters on their death world planet. Pattern recognition does not explain this, Joralovic said, his voice rough. He pointed at the display showing Kira's impossible trajectory calculation for breaching the extraction barriers. That requires understanding of hard light physics, harmonic resonance theory, and thermal energy dynamics. That is not pattern recognition. That is expertise. Unless, Thanara said slowly, her tendrils beginning to unknot slightly, unless she has encountered similar systems before. Perhaps Earth has training facilities that use comparable technology. I pulled up Earth's technological profile on my secondary display. Chemical rockets, primitive nuclear power, Binary computer systems. They had only developed faster than light capability 3 cycles ago, and that was with council assistance and shared technology. They barely have artificial gravity, I said flatly. Their most advanced combat training involves, I am reading this correctly, throwing colored balls filled with paint at each other. The room fell silent again as we continued watching the footage. We saw Kira complete the extraction objective. We saw her shatter a containment field with her bare hand, an act that should have hospitalized her for weeks. Pause on her hand, I commanded. Magnify and enhance. The display zoomed in on Kira's fist immediately after impact. We all leaned forward, looking for fractures, swelling, tissue damage, anything that would confirm she was injured and simply tolerating the pain through adrenaline or shock. Her hand was completely undamaged. Not even a bruise. How much force did that impact generate? I asked Morvax. He consulted the sensor data, his eye clusters widening in disbelief. Approximately 2,800 newtons, concentrated on an impact area of roughly 4 square centimeters. That should have pulverized every bone in her hand, Krevnor said. The human skeletal system cannot withstand that kind of pressure. It is biologically impossible. Add it to the list of impossible things she did today, Jorelvik muttered. We watched the rest of the footage in silence, watched Kira casually stroll to the extraction platform like she had just completed a light warm-up exercise instead of demolishing the most difficult combat assessment in the known galaxy. Watched her smile and wave at us like we were old friends watching her performance at a recreational event. The footage ended. The holographic display faded to standby mode. Nobody spoke for a long moment. The betting pool, someone finally said. I turned to see Instructor Halovek, who manages the Academy's finances and apparently also illegal gambling operations. Total pot was 12,400 credits. 0 winning bets. All funds returned to participants minus administrative fees. I lost 500 credits, I said numbly, and somehow that is the least concerning thing that happened today. My comm unit chirped. A message from Kelivos. Report to Briefing Room 3. Candidate Torres is waiting for her assessment results. Right. We still had to tell her whether she passed or failed. What do you even say to someone who has just invalidated your entire professional expertise? Congratulations, you terrified us all. Well done, you have fundamentally altered our understanding of combat theory. Please leave before you destroy anything else. I stood, my joints creaking in a way that made me feel every one of my 73 cycles. I will handle the assessment interview. Rather you than me, Joralovic said. I am not ready to face her again. I am not sure I will ever be ready. I left the analysis chamber and walked through the Academy corridors toward Briefing Room 3. Each step felt heavier than the last. Not from gravity, but from the weight of realization settling onto my shoulders. We had been wrong about humans. Catastrophically, dangerously wrong. And if we were wrong about their combat capabilities, what else had we been wrong about? I reached the briefing room door, took a breath that did nothing to calm my nerves, and entered. Kira Torres sat at the conference table, looking relaxed and cheerful, like someone waiting for lunch plans instead of exam results. She looked up when I entered, and gave me that same smile. So, she said brightly, how did I do? I sat down across from Kira Torres, placing my datapad on the table with more care than necessary, mostly because I needed a moment to figure out what words were supposed to come out of my mouth. You passed, I said finally, which might be the greatest understatement of my entire career. Obviously. Cool, Kira replied, like I had just told her the cafeteria was serving her favorite meal. What happens next? What happened next was that the Intergalactic Combat Academy spent the following 3 weeks completely overhauling our assessment protocols, our training methodologies, and our fundamental assumptions about species capability classifications. The Level 9 simulator, our pride and glory, our ultimate test of combat readiness, was recalibrated to Level 12 difficulty. Not because we wanted to make it harder for everyone else, but because we needed a benchmark that could actually challenge human candidates. Kira volunteered to test it. She completed it in 41 seconds. We are currently designing Level 15, the betting pools. I am ashamed to admit, did not stop. They evolved. Now instructors bet on how quickly humans will complete objectives, what creative solutions they will devise, and which fundamental laws of physics they will appear to violate next. I have stopped participating. I cannot afford to keep losing credits to a species that treats impossibility as a suggestion. Kira Torres was immediately accelerated into the Advanced Tactical Command program, skipping roughly 4 cycles of preliminary training that apparently she did not need. She is currently teaching a course on environmental combat adaptation. Her students include warriors with decades of experience who sit in her classroom taking notes like academy recruits. I attended one of her lectures. She explained her plasma storm strategy using terms like, "It seemed mus," and basic energy dynamics. Basic. She called it basic. 3 more humans enrolled in the academy after Kira's assessment results became public knowledge. All 3 completed level 9 in under 2 minutes. We stopped being surprised after the second one weaponized the gravity fluctuations to create a makeshift railgun using debris and momentum physics. I have spent 73 cycles believing I understood combat, strategy and the fundamental limitations that govern tactical possibilities. Kira Torres destroyed that understanding in 12 seconds and has been casually dismantling the remains ever since. Here is what I have learned about humans, and I want you to pay attention because this is important. They are not stronger than us. They are not faster. They are not more durable. On paper, by every measurable metric we use to assess species capability, they should be middle tier at best, fragile support personnel at worst. But humans do not care about what should be possible. They look at limitations as starting points. They see rules as frameworks to be understood and then bent until reality cooperates with whatever insane plan they have conceived. They have spent their entire evolutionary history surviving on a planet that actively tried to kill them in every possible way, and they responded by developing pattern recognition, adaptability, and problem-solving capabilities that border on precognitive. And now they are in space, with us, learning our technology, understanding our systems, getting better every single day. I saw Kira in the academy corridor last week. She was chatting with a group of Krillian combat students, laughing about something, looking completely at ease in an environment that would have terrified her species just a few cycles ago. She noticed me watching and gave me a friendly nod. I nodded back, respectful now in a way I was not before. That night I updated my personal log with a note that I hope future instructors will read and take seriously. It says simply, "Never underestimate humans, never bet against them, and if one of them smiles at you before a combat assessment, you should probably be afraid. Very afraid. Because that smile means they have already figured out how to win. They are just being polite enough not to tell you how badly you are about to lose." Kira Torres taught me that lesson in 12 seconds. I suspect humanity will spend the next several cycles teaching the entire galaxy the same thing. And I really, truly, sincerely hope we are all ready for it. Though based on the evidence so far, we probably are not. We are definitely not. But that, as the humans say, is our problem to solve. Good luck to us all. We are going to need it.